بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح. As Imam Tahir mentioned, we have done one session so far regarding uh, the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ here at MSI. In terms of that session, we went over some of the reasons for reading the seerah and what would be our method of studying the seerah. As you know, our epistemology, our sources are very important to us, that we base the foundation by which we look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ. How do we interpret the incidents that occurred, approaching it knowing that this is a difference between our Jannah and our Jahannam, because our Aqidah depends on understanding the life of the Prophet ﷺ properly. It is not just that we are going through a chronological order of the life of the Prophet ﷺ, just knowing the events of the history so that we can entertain ourselves. Our method of studying the seerah is very important. And the main question that we asked last month was how to read the seerah. And there are many replies to that question, but we have to look at it through the lens of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That when we are looking at the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whether it be his birth, his migration, his wars, his peace treaties, we have to understand it that he is Rasulullah, that he is being given revelation from فوق السماوات, from the heavens, and he is being commanded by Allah Ta'ala. The fact that he is a genius, the fact that he is truthful, the fact that he is a great father, all of these other things will take a back seat. Right? We look at the Prophet ﷺ from all these angles, but primarily that he is Rasulullah. If you do not understand that perspective, then everything else will be on shaky foundations. So today, inshallah, our session is speaking about the Jahiliyyah, right? The era prior to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we must set the scene. When we want to look at the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and who his forefathers were, where did they come from, and why Allah Ta'ala chose the Prophet ﷺ to be from this land, from this tribe, from this area, at this time period. So when we set the scene, we look at Arabia during this time. And it is not in any civilized manner. It does not have a systematic government, unlike the two superpowers of that time, and that is what you can see in the green here, which is Faris, the Persian Empire, and in the pink, that is the Roman or the Byzantine Empire. These were the two superpowers during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, or right before him. And Arabia, though there were tribes there, they were very much fragmented and scattered. They did not hold one tribe or one individual to be a primary authority, and it was very much scattered. There were others, other tribes, the Greece, the Indians, and when you look at the Prophet ﷺ and the influence that he had, from this time period, which is around from the time period that the Prophet ﷺ actually started to give da'wah. We say that the Amul Fil, the year of the elephant, the year that the Prophet ﷺ was born, was 570 according to the Gregorian calendar, approximately. And if you fast forward 1 century from that time period, the influence that Islam had is spread from southern Spain all the way to North India. In just 1 century, the Prophet ﷺ and the Ummah of Islam spread. So the religious situation during this time was the Byzantines were Christians and the Persians were Zoroastrians. So neither there was a lot of corruption, as you know, that occurred. The Christianity has spread not just in the Byzantine Empire, but south into Africa, as you know, when the Prophet ﷺ sent the first the first group of migrants, he did not send them to Medina. Rather, he sent them to Habsha, right? Ethiopia, modern day Ethiopia, and that was ruled by Najashi, the just king, who later on became Muslim. And the first delegation sent to the Prophet ﷺ was from that land, from what is you can see here, Habasha, or Exeum, the area where Najashi ruled. A few weeks ago, I was talking about this at another masjid, speaking about the hijrah, the first hijrah, and a person of Desi origin, he came to me and he had a lot of sadness in his voice, and he said to me, why didn't the Prophet ﷺ send him to India? He was you could feel the sadness in his voice. He wanted to host the Prophet ﷺ, or he wanted his ancestors to host the Prophet ﷺ. And yet the Prophet ﷺ, Allah, he chose certain places to send the Sahaba because of different reasons. For example, he chose Habsha at that time because it was a trade center for the Quraysh. There was a relationship that was built. They were from Ahlul Kitab, so there was that connection as well. And the Prophet ﷺ knew, and he knew people from that land. Right? One of the there were three women that had nursed the Prophet ﷺ. His own mother, Amina bint Wahb, the famous Halima Sa'diyah radiyallahu anha, and so that was Halima, and the third was Baraka al-Habashiyah. Right? She was from Al-Habasha, and she was one of the ones that had nursed the Prophet ﷺ. So yes, so there was different reasons for why the Prophet ﷺ chose Habsha, but the moral, in terms of the social and moral conditions during this time, it was a lot of decay. There was these nations were corrupt from within, in terms of religious corruption, moral corruption, materialistic views of life, and the Arab, in relation to these two major superpowers, they were raw, and that's why there was a lot of emphasis on their character, and sometimes to a fault. There was a lot of emphasis on honor, on truthfulness, on nobility, and many of these raw characteristics that you would consider. And that was one of the reasons why this area was chosen for the birthplace of the Prophet ﷺ. And as I mentioned, to a fault, they were raw. That they focused so much on honor that eventually they fell into a distortion of that, like burying their old children alive. They felt so much need to be generous that they would go out of their way and do severe takalluf, as we say, right? Severe going out of the way in such a way that they would take on loans, they would do things that were completely against their fitrah. So they were very raw in that sense. And that was one of the reasons why Allah Ta'ala chose this area, the Arabian Peninsula. And this is a question that we ask, that we should think about. Why did Allah Ta'ala select this area? The other nations, they were very much civilized in that there was a lot of educated individuals, reading, writing. The civilization had flourished more, and one could make the argument that the Prophet ﷺ, if he was born in the Byzantine Empire or in the Persian Empire, that he had learned this. Right? He had learned the Quran, he had learned the previous scriptures. So to take away that potential allegation, Allah Ta'ala caused him to be born amongst the Arab, who were unlettered, majority of them unlettered. So the accusation cannot even be leveled that the Prophet ﷺ learned this. Another important aspect of the Arabian Peninsula is the fact that our deen is linked with the deen of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Millata abikum Ibrahim huwa sammakum al-muslimin. That Ibrahim alayhi salam, as we know, the Arab, they're descendants of Ismail alayhi salam, and there are different categories of Arab. Jurhum tribe, when they came, and Ismail and Hajar were there. So they eventually the progeny spread from Ismail alayhi salam. So Allah Ta'ala connecting the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Abul Anbiya. Ibrahim alayhi salam is known as the father of the prophets. So we'll talk more about the remnants of Ibrahim alayhi salam's monotheistic religion that remained in the Arabian Peninsula even before the advent of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The geographical location is also something important. As we see in this map, we can see that it is surrounded by fitna. Right? This area in the south, you have where the attack from Abraha came, the attack of Abraha and his army of elephants. And in the north, both on the east and the west, you have these empires who kept waging war against each other. They did not even care to address these two empires. Did not even care to address the Arabs because they were fragmented. There was nothing there to conquer. So the geographical positioning of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's birthplace, Mecca, this Najd area, was something very important. And that's another reason why Allah chose the Arabian Peninsula. And lastly, the medium of the Arabic language. As you know, if anyone that has studied the Arabic language at any preliminary intermediate level can appreciate that the greatest miracle given to the Prophet ﷺ would be the Quran. And Allah Ta'ala chose the language for that to be the language of Kalamullah to be Arabic. And so there are many particular specialities and particularities that are related to the Arabic language. And that's another reason why Allah chose the Arabian Peninsula. This chart here is just a nasab of the Prophet ﷺ. You can see that from the Prophet ﷺ's father, Abdullah, his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, Hashim, so on and so forth, all the way back to. When we look at the lineage of the Prophet ﷺ, it's usually broken down into three categories in books of Seerah. There's an agreement that from the Prophet ﷺ to Adnan, that lineage is well known and established. From the Prophet ﷺ to Adnan, one of the descendants of Ismail alayhi salam. Then from Adnan to Ibrahim alayhi salam, there's a lot of different variations in terms of the lineage of the Prophet ﷺ. And then some books of Seerah even go into from Ibrahim alayhi salam all the way back to Adam alayhi salam, which is highly questionable. But nevertheless, there's an effort that is made to know the lineage of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned this in one hadith, in which he says, "مثلي ومثل الأنبياء من قبلي كمثل رجل بنى بنيانا فأحسنه وأجمله." The parable of me and previous prophets is like a person who builds a building, فأحسنه وأجمله, and he builds it very well, he adorns it and decorates it. إلا موضع لبنة من زاوية من زواياه, except for one corner of that building has a brick that is missing. فَجَعَلَ النَّاسُ يَطُوفُونَ بِهِ وَيُعْجِبُونَ لَهُ. The people start roaming around that building, appreciating it. This is an amazing building. However, they say, وَيَقُولُونَ هَلَّا وُضِعَتْ هَذِهِ اللَّبِنَةِ. Won't that person place that last brick? Prophet ﷺ says, فَأَنَا اللَّبِنَةِ وَأَنَا خَاتَمُ النَّبِيِّينَ. I am that brick, I am the seal of the prophets. The Prophet ﷺ, keep in mind, if you put yourself in that time period, he is but an extension of Isa alayhi salam. He's an extension of Musa alayhi salam. He's an extension of Ibrahim, Nuh, and all the other Anbiya alayhi salam that came before him. So there was a reason why the first delegation that came to Mecca and accepted Islam were Christians, right? Habashi, Ethiopian Christians, 30 or 40 of them that came into the presence of the Prophet ﷺ and they accepted Islam. Because the Prophet ﷺ is but an extension of those previous prophets. So when we look at the message of the Prophet ﷺ and all other Anbiya alayhimussalam, there are two foundations by which this building that the Prophet ﷺ is talking about is built upon. And that is doctrine, aqidah, which did not change, right? Which did not change throughout the fluctuation of time. So every prophet preached that same aqidah. And then the second foundation, and that is something that portion of it did change. Legislation, tashri' wa akhlaq, legislation and morals, that they did change. Right? There were certain restrictions in Musa alayhi salam's religion that were lifted in Isa alayhi salam's religion. There were restrictions in previous religions that became more strict or lenient in other religions, depending on that. So that changed based upon the time period. And that's because Allah Ta'ala sent each one of those legislations for a particular time and for a particular place. When Allah lifted the qaid, the condition of time and place, that's when the universality of our deen came into place. The Prophet ﷺ, his deen is for all times and all places, and it will not change. The tashri', the legislation, and the morals will not change on top of the aqidah. Because the Prophet ﷺ, contrary to other prophets, he was not sent for a particular time. He was not sent for a particular place. He was sent for all times and for all places. That is the main difference between our Prophet ﷺ and other prophets. He is Khatamun Nabiyyin, he is the seal. So there is an obvious connection between our deen and the previous adyan. This ayah speaks about that in a very clear way. This ayah in Surah Al-Shura, شرع لكم من الدين ما وصى به نوحا والذي أوحينا إليك. So the legislation given to Nuh alayhi salam and what was revealed to you. وما وصينا به إبراهيم وموسى وعيسى أن أقيموا الدين ولا تتفرقوا فيه. And the prophets listed here are the prophets of Ulul Azm. When we look at the galaxy of prophets, there is an upper echelon of prophets who are known as Ulul Azmi min al-Rusul, the prophets of steadfastness, the prophets that had the highest rank. And amongst them are Nuh alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam, and our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So this is what we have advised to you and what we had revealed to you and what was revealed to these other prophets, an aqimud deen, that established the deen, وَلَا تَتَفَرَّقُوا فِيهِ, and do not disperse in it. كَبُرَ عَلَى الْمُشْرِكِينَ مَا تَدْعُوهُمْ إِلَيْهِ. This was very difficult for the mushrikeen to handle. Right? That why this was an allegation leveled against the Prophet ﷺ throughout his prophethood. Why was he chosen? Right? Why wasn't the prophet from my tribe? Why wasn't I a prophet? As many of the munafiqun stated. Allahu yajtabi ilayhi man yasha. Allah chooses whom He wishes. وَيَهْدِي إِلَيْهِ مَن يُنِيبُ, and He guides whomever turns to Him. There's a difference here between these two words, yajtabi and yahdi. Right? the Allah choosing someone is restricted to Allah. You know, nubuwwah, as we know, prophethood is not something that you can obtain by being a righteous individual. It is something chosen by Allah. That's why we talked about the fact that why did Allah Ta'ala select this Arabian Peninsula? What is important about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam being here in this time, in this place, from this family? You know, being unlettered, being in this geographical location, choosing the Arab. So the Prophet ﷺ was chosen by Allah, and we'll talk more about this when you look at when the revelation was given to him. He did not expect revelation. You look at his reaction in the cave of Hira when he was met with Jibreel alayhi salam. He wasn't expecting this. This was not something that he was expecting. He was chosen. But hidayah is something different. Hidayah Allah Ta'ala gives to whomever turns towards him. وَيَهْدِي إِلَيْهِ مَن يُنِيبُ. If one turns to Allah Ta'ala, then they will get guidance. They will get hidayah. But this being chosen is something that we must, this is a point in that when we recognize the characteristics of Allah Ta'ala, one of which is al-adl. Right? One characteristic of Allah Ta'ala is that He is just. So Allah Ta'ala is just. He has chosen you to be in a particular way, right? With these as your parents, with these individuals as your siblings. These are things that Allah Ta'ala has chosen. He is al-adl. Even in the form of our creation, right? How we have been created. ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور. Do you see anything? You doubt. ثم ارجع البصر كرتين. Allah tells you again, look again, do you see any deficiency in Allah Ta'ala's creation? So Allah Ta'ala is al-adl, and Him choosing the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is His choice, right? His choice. The Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, as you know, confirmed previous messengers and their messages. Now, when we look at this, is important when we look at the life of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the traces of the original Abrahamic faith, Millatu Ibrahim. With that millah is something highlighted, and it's actually one of the allegations that certain Orientalists make against the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. They'll say things like, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he just took the customs of the Arab and put them in the garment of a new religion, a superior thought. That's all he did. But no, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the millah of Ibrahim alayhi salam was strong amongst the Arab, and they recognize certain aspects. So, for example, veneration of the Kaaba. This was the house built by Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam. The ibadat that they would do would be surviving elements from the deen of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So, for example, when they would do talbiyah, we know the talbiyah, labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika laka labbaik. So they would have a similar talbiyah in Jahiliyyah, and that was labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika illa sharika huwa lak, tamlikuhu wa ma malak. That they would say this talbiyah, that we are here before you, O Allah. We are here, and there is no partner except the partner that who belongs to you. You own him, and he does not own you. Right? So ascribing partners to Allah Ta'ala. تَمْلِكُهُ وَمَا مَلَكَ. So they took the talbiyah of Ibrahim alayhi salam and distorted it. Right? And what the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did with them when he came, he corrected those distortions. Right? When you look at the ayah that speaks about Safa and Marwa, إِنَّ الصَّفَا وَالْمَرْوَةَ مِنْ شَعَائِرِ اللَّهِ مَنْ حَجَّ الْبَيْتَ وَاعْتَمَرَ فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِ. That why was this even mentioned? فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِ, that there's no sin in doing sa'i. It's because if you put yourself in the time period of the Sahaba, how they were doing sa'i previous to the Prophet ﷺ was in a distorted way from what Ibrahim ﷺ came. So there were two idols, one at Safa and the other at Marwa, and they would do sa'i unclothed, and they would touch the idols at Safa and Marwa while doing this act of ibadah. That's why when they were commanded to do sa'i, the Muslims had a very had a natural negative reaction to this because of their history with it. So the Prophet ﷺ, the surviving elements of the deen of Ibrahim salam were corrected because they were distorted. So there were clear traces of the original Abrahamic faith that existed in Mecca. And the Prophet ﷺ took those that were correct and filtered them through now. That's why when we look at the deen, the other adyan, specifically Christianity and Judaism, and how they represent prophets, how they represent those scriptures, we always filter them through the eyes of the Quran. We do not look at these scriptures void of looking at it from the Quran. Otherwise, you will fall into many issues, many problems, such as the isma of Anbiya alayhi salam. If you read the stories of Lut alayhi salam, the stories of Dawood alayhi salam, you will be completely disheartened by what you find in terms of the description of prophets. The description of we know that there was description of the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in those scriptures, and some of the Sahaba, they accepted Islam because of those descriptions, like Abdullah ibn Salam radiallahu anhu. He was a very famous Jewish rabbi, that when he says that when he first came upon the Prophet ﷺ, the first thing that he heard from him was Afshu salam wa at'imu at-ta'am wasilu al-arham wa sallu bil-layli wan-nasu niyam tadkhulu al-jannata bi salam. That this was the first thing that he heard, and this was the characteristics mentioned in the Torah about the Prophet ﷺ started to become apparent to him. So what did he hear? He heard Afshu salam, spread peace. Wa at'imu at-ta'am, feed the people food. Wasilul arham, and join ties of kinship. Wasallu bil-layl, pray at night. Wan-nasu niyam, while people are sleeping. Tadkhulul jannata bi salam, and you will enter into paradise in a state of peace. This was what he heard. Contrary to so they recognize this. When a person is of being true to themselves, they recognize it. Whereas, when Amr ibn al-As, when he first met with Musaylamah al-Kadhab, the false prophet, after the passing of the Prophet ﷺ, Amr ibn al-As, he met with him, and this Musaylamah started to, as you know, he tried to make up surahs that, I'm receiving revelation as well. So there's one hilarious surah that he made up, was Al-Filu Mal-Fil, wa ma adraka mal-fil, lahu dhanabun kathir wa khurtumun tawil. The elephant, what of the elephant? What do you know about the elephant? It has a small tail and a long trunk. And then Amr ibn al-As said, Inni a'lam annaka ta'lam anni a'lam annaka takdhib. I know that you know that I know that you're lying. Right? So it was clear, he clearly recognized the falsehood, and one can clearly, when they look at the description of the coming prophet in previous scriptures, it talks about the Prophet ﷺ. And there's the recognition of him as an extension of Ibrahim alayhi salam and the other Anbiya. Now, when we look at important events that occurred prior to the Mawlid, the blessed birth of the Prophet ﷺ, there are two that we are going to talk about today. One is, and this is, one has to read the writing on the wall. Literally, this writing was on the wall of the Kaaba. Irhas is what we call this in our script, in our literature. Irhas, it refers to the smaller miracles before the larger miracle. That when these smaller miracles are occurring, these should point you towards something that is about to occur. If you cannot recognize these small miracles, then the big miracle will go over your head. So irhas is what is being referred to. And there were many signs that something amazing is on the horizon. Prior to the birth of the Prophet ﷺ, there were certain signs. One of which was the Zamzam well and the story of Abdul Muttalib. Abdul Muttalib is the grandfather of the Prophet ﷺ, paternal grandfather. So this story it mentions that قال عبد المطلب إني لنائم في الحجر. Abdul Muttalib was sleeping in Al-Hijr. What is Al-Hijr? The Hatim. The Hatim, right? So another name of that is Al-Hijr, right? So Hijr means to demarcate. One of the meanings of Hijr is to demarcate something. So that was the demarcation of the Kaaba, right? It's also known as Al-Jadr or Hijr Ismail, because that's where the Ibrahim alayhi salam had placed Ismail alayhi salam. So Abdul Muttalib was sleeping at Al-Hijr. When you go there and you read now, when you know that okay, this is when you read the Seerah and then you go visit these places, such as the Kaaba, you are able to witness something more. Right? So you are able to witness something greater. And so the birthplace of the where Ismail alayhi salam used to rest, Abdul Muttalib is resting, the grandfather of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. إذ أتاني آت, and in the dream he sees فقال لي, a person comes to him and he says احفر طيبة, dig طيبة. طيبة refers to goodness. قلت وما طيبة, I asked him what is طيبة. قال ثم ذهب عني, and that person left. فلما كان الغد, the next day رجعت إلى مضجعي, I went to my sleeping spot next to the Kaaba. فنمت فيه, and I fell asleep. فجاءني, another person, the same individual came to me in the dream. فقال احفر برا, dig برا. برا means righteousness. If you know, whenever there are numerous names for Zamzam. Zamzam is just one of the names of Zamzam. And one of the peculiarities of the Arabic language is that when something is highlighted, then they give it multiple names. Like in Arabic, if you look at horses, the names for horses, there are so many names for horses. Names for lions, Asad, Dirgham, Lays, so on and so forth. There are many names for certain animals, certain places that the Arabs held near and dear to their hearts. So here in this dream, the person uses a different name. قلت وما برة, what is برة? قال ثم ذهب عني. That person did not respond, he just left me. فلما كان الغد رجعت إلى مضجعي فنمت فيه. The next day, I was sleeping in the same area, and a person came to me in my dream and he said, احفر المضنونة, dig al-madnuna. Madnuna refers to something that is precious, something that is valuable. قال قلت وما المضمونة, what is madnuna? I asked. قال ثم ذهب. That person left without responding. This is the Abdul Muttalib is starting to notice a pattern here. Next day he goes to sleep in the same spot. رجعت إلى مضجعي فنمت فيه فجاءني فقال احفر زمزم. قال قلت وما زمزم. The person came to me in the dream once again and he said, dig Zamzam. I asked him, what is Zamzam? The reply came, لا تنزف أبدا ولا تذم, تسقي الحجيج الأعظم وهي بين الفرس والدم عند نقرة الغراب الأعصم عند قرية النمل. The reply came that Zamzam is a water, its source will never drain. It will never drain out. It will continuously give water. It will feed the Hujjaj, large number of pilgrims. وَهِيَ بَيْنَ الْفَرْسِ وَالدَّمِ. This is a metaphor that, when a person is milking, if any of you have milked a cow before, you know that you're in between two things that are kind of filthy, right? Between the feces and between blood. So that milk is coming. So this is a metaphor that it is between fars and dam. عند نقرة الغراب الأعظم, and he gives him certain clues that it's where the specific type of crow, A'sam, is referring to a crow that has feet. Its talons are white. In the قرية النمل, where there is ants. So these are certain clues that were given to Abdul Muttalib. As we talked about previously, the sunnah of Allah Ta'ala is akhsul asbab, taking the means. Allah Ta'ala just doesn't give, right? When Zamzam was first initially came into existence, right? It didn't just sprout. There was the strike of Ismail alayhi salam. There was the running of Hajar alayhi salam. You have to take the means in order for something to actually occur. You can't expect something to occur by just sitting back and waiting for things to happen. The sunnah is to take the means, right? That's why the famous hadith in which the person came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, should I leave my camel untied or should I do tawakkul? The Prophet ﷺ told him that is not tawakkul. Right? Tawakkul is that you first tie your camel and then you can come in, right? And then you can do tawakkul. But if you do not do what you are required to do, then how can you place your reliance upon Allah Ta'ala? So the story continues. فَلَمَّا بُيَّنَ لَهُ شَأْنُهُ وَضَلَّ عَلَى مَوْضِعِهِ. He eventually found a place where he was being referred to in the dream. وَعَرَفَ أَنَّهُ صُدِقٌ, and he knew that this dream was true. غَدَى بِمِعْوَدِهِ وَمَعَهُ ابْنُ الْحَارِثِ بْنُ عَبْدِ الْمُطَّلِبِ. And he started to dig with his shovel. And at that time he only had one son. As we know, Abdul Muttalib had many sons. At that time he only had one son, Al-Harith ibn Abdul Muttalib. وليس معه يومئذ ولد غيره فحفر فيها فلما بدا لعبد المطلب الطي كبر. Abdul Muttalib and his son started digging. And when they got to what now seemed to be the outer portion of the well, Abdul Muttalib started to say, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. فَعَرَفَتْ Quraysh was around him. They knew that he has fulfilled what he was looking for. And they came to him and they said, Ya Abdul Muttalib, إِنَّهَا بِئْرُ أَبِينَا إِسْمَعِيلِ. This is the well of our forefather Ismail alayhi salam. وَإِنَّ لَنَا فِيهَا حَقًّا. We have a right to it just as much as you have a right to it. فَأَشْرِكْنَا مَعَكَ فِيهَا. So allow us to be partners with you regarding this well. Abdul Muttalib, he in things of khair, he was a little bit stingy. Right? So he said, Ma ana bifa'il. I'm not going to share this with you. Inna hadha al-amra qad khussisat bi dunakum. This matter was specified for me over you. وَأُعْطِيتُهُ مِنْ بَيْنِكُمْ. And I was chosen for this to be given to me. But the Quraysh were persistent. And they said, فَأَنصِفْنَا فَإِنَّا غَيْرُ تَارِكِيكَ حَتَّى نُخَاصِمَكَ فِيهَا. We will not leave you with this well. We will dispute. And as we talked about previously, there was no government system there. So what would be their form of dispute? How would they settle these matters? They would go to someone who they appoint between themselves as a judge. So فَجَعَلُوا بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَكُمْ مَنْ شِئْتُمْ أُحَاكِمُكُمْ فِيهِ إِلَيْهِ. Appoint whoever you want to be an arbitrator between you and I. And they chose a kahina, a soothsayer from Banu Sa'd. And she was from bi Ashrafi Sham. She was from the Levant, Sham area. So Abdul Muttalib and this group of Quraysh, they set out on a journey to Sham, to Levant. And each one of them had taken, the provisions for the journey, but the journey proved to be too far for them, and they had reached a place. إِذَاكَ مَفَاوِزْ, they were in the middle of the desert, and they had run out of sustenance. Now, Abdul Muttalib did not have any water. The other individuals were very scarce on water. So Abdul Muttalib, they eventually started to set out to find water. And as Abdul Muttalib set out to find water, Allah Ta'ala gave him another miracle. And Allah Ta'ala started to, from his rahila, where his ride was, انفجرت من تحت خفه عين ماء عذب, sweet water started to burst. And Abdul Muttalib again stated Allahu Akbar wa kabbara ashabuhu, and likewise did his companions. And Abdul Muttalib called the rest of the Quraysh to see this and to drink from it as well, to quench themselves, to fill their water bags, and to quench their animals, their rides. At that moment, they realized, Wallahu qada laka alayna, Allah has ruled for you over us. Wallahi ma nukhasimuka fi Zamzam abada, we will not dispute regarding Zamzam with you. Inna alladhi saqaka hadha al-ma bi hadha al-falah huwa alladhi saqaka Zamzam. The one who has given you this water in this barren land is the one that gave you Zamzam. So go, and we will not dispute with you. So this was a miracle that came before the advent of the birth of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so there were certain miracles that a person must recognize before other miracles. The water of Zamzam, as this hadith states, Ma'u Zamzam lima shuriba lah, is an important miracle because it's one of those tangible miracles that has continued. Many of the tangible, like things that we can touch, see, taste, have not continued. We know that the Quran is the greatest miracle. It is something that has been passed down to us. However, in terms of tangible miracles, we have Zamzam, and Zamzam is one of those that the miracle, Allah Ta'ala has even blessed us with the physical benefit of the Prophet ﷺ through Zamzam. Because through Zamzam, there was occasion in which the Prophet ﷺ mixed his saliva with the water of Zamzam. And what do you think happened there? That water touched that water like an sanad, right? That water touched that water, because the water never ceased to exist. So the water that we have today is even greater than the water that Abdul Muttalib tasted, right? Because that water was Zamzam, but we have Zamzam with the saliva of the Prophet ﷺ. So there is something greater to the Zamzam after the Prophet ﷺ. Everything that we do is through the Prophet ﷺ. Keep that in mind. That will save you from a lot of headache and heartache when looking at the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. So Ma'u Zamzam lima shuriba lah, there are many occasions the Prophet ﷺ has praised the water of Zamzam, that a person will receive from the water of Zamzam what he attends. Shifa'u shukmi was the ta'amu tu'mi was shifa'u sukm, that it is a cure for those who are looking for cure. It is a nourishment for those who are looking for nourishment. And Zamzam water continues to be a tangible miracle that we can take benefit from till today. Another important event, and one of the, this is not something that was, when we look at irhas, it's not something that just happened with the Prophet ﷺ. Irhas, miracles before miracles, occurred with previous prophets. Like, for example, Isa alayhi salam. Isa alayhi salam, he was born without a father, which was a miracle. But right before Isa alayhi salam was the birth of Yahya alayhi salam. Yahya alayhi salam was born to Zakaria alayhi salam, who both mother and father were in very old age. Right? So that was a smaller miracle before the greater miracle. Right? Imam Sa'ad read from Surah Yusuf in Salah. When we look at the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, the miracles, the dreams that he was having before, and that he conveyed to his father. followed with the miracles that came afterwards, his prophethood, and what was the occurrence, the interactions between him and his brothers. But nevertheless, this happened during the time of the Prophet ﷺ as well. The miracle before the miracles before the miracle, the event of Ashabul Fil, and this is a very famous event that has many narrations that speak about it. So Abraha, he was the king of Yemen. He was and he was sent as a viceroy from Najashi. Najashi is basically the title given to the one who rules Habasha, just like Kisra is the title for the one who rules Persia. Qaisar was the title for the one who rules the Romans, etc., etc. So he had built a cathedral in Sana'a, and he wanted to divert individuals from the Kaaba to the cathedral, the church that he had built in Sana'a. And it was agreed upon amongst the Arab that the place of ibadah was Mecca. That was something that was not disputed. So when Abraha built this cathedral and tried to turn people from that Hajj to now making Hajj of this area, it did not go over well. And so there were reports of two types of incidents that occurred. One was a person from Banu Kinana had defiled the cathedral, so he basically used it as a place of restaurant, right? So, and this angered Abraha. Other narrations mentioned that he burned it. He burned a portion or all of it down. So this angered Abraha. So Abraha traveled from Sana'a, as you can see the route here, to Mecca with an army that has not, the likes of which the Arabs had not seen previously, to destroy the Kaaba. And this story is mentioned in Surah Al-Fil. ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل. Do you not see how Allah dealt with Ashabul Fil? Allah, He uses the word kaid here. Kaid is something that a person uses to plot in secretly, a strategy, right? But Abraham made this apparent that he was coming for the Kaaba, he was coming to destroy it. So why did Allah use the word kaid here in this situation? It is because the hidden reasoning behind that, there was a jealousy, a malice, that why is this area given so much importance? So there was a hidden area, a hidden reasoning behind that. وَأَرْسَلَ عَلَيْهِمْ طَيْرًا أَبَابِيلَ. Allah sent birds in flocks and swarms, تَرْمِيهِمْ بِحِجَارَةٍ مِّن سِجِّيلٍ, that carried with them stones that they carried. Narrations mention 3 stones, one that in their beak and 2 in their claws, and of clay. فَجَعَلَهُمْ كَعَصْفٍ مَأْكُولٍ تَرْمِيهِمْ بِحِجَارَةٍ مِّن سِجِّيلٍ. They would throw these stones on their army, and they became like husk, right, that were to be eaten, dust, leaves that are eaten. Right? So this story has a lot of importance, and there are certain lessons that we can take from this story, specifically in terms of the Kaaba. Allah Ta'ala had honored the Kaaba unlike He has honored anything else. And when this surah was revealed, it was revealed to the mushrikeen so that they do not become arrogant. That it's not that they were honored. It's not that they were honored. Allah Ta'ala honored the Kaaba, the building that Ibrahim and Ismail Islam built, because when the Quraysh saw this event, and it resonated with them, because this Amul Fil, most historians say that was the year that the Prophet ﷺ was born. So there is a specific honor to the Kaaba that Allah Ta'ala has shown through this incident. There was a clear jealousy over Mecca, and to turn the direction for turn the place of Hajj from Mecca to now this Sana'a. When we look at, there were individuals that aided Abraha in this regard, and they basically committed treason. We will talk about this, that the result of treason against Allah Ta'ala, against the Rasul, لهم خزي في الدنيا ولهم في الآخرة عذاب أليم, that they will taste humiliation in this world and painful torment in the next. As when we get to the Medinan era, there's a discussion in regards to how Allah Ta'ala, when after Banu Qurayza, who had committed treason against the Prophet ﷺ after the Battle of Ahzab, they stated that they would not turn against the Prophet ﷺ, and they did. And after the battle was won, the Prophet ﷺ went to Banu Qurayza to take care of them as well. So their treachery and the treachery of these individuals who aided Abraha only led to their humiliation. We can see here, we talk about individuals in terms of going to battle against Allah Ta'ala. In reality, there is no battle. When a person tries to go against Allah Ta'ala, there is no battle. And Allah Ta'ala makes this vividly apparent in some situations, such as He did here. This army was the likes that none of the Arabs had previously seen. And they came attacking the Kaaba. And they said, when Abraham met with Abdul Muttalib, before he had reached Mecca, Abraha told him that we are not coming to fight you. We are coming to destroy the Kaaba. Right? He made that clear, that he is not coming to fight, he is coming to destroy the Kaaba. And this is the reality. When a person deals with Allah Ta'ala, Allah can humiliate them in the most miserable of ways. That these birds are used to destroy them. Right? This is, Allah will show His true power when a person is in doubt. And we know at this point, in this stage of our life, it's ilmul yaqeen. It's knowledge that we can actually take home and benefit from. In the next life, it will become aynul yaqeen. There will be no doubt. As we saw, this was a sign of prophethood as well. There is a clear protection from Allah Ta'ala over His sacred cities. And we see this in Mecca, and this is when you study Islamic eschatology, when you study the maghibat, the signs of the last hour, and what will happen with Dajjal and Isa alayhi salam and the Mahdi. The Mecca and Medina are highlighted as places of refuge that will not be attacked, that the Dajjal will not be allowed to enter. And we see this here in this situation as well. One of the things that the Arab used to do, this in terms of coinciding with the year 570 Gregorian calendar. So when we look at the Hijrah, the Hijri date, there are certain things that we can point to. But we know that the Hijrah, it starts from when the Prophet ﷺ made Hijrah. Right? But what about the years before that, the Meccan era? What about the Prophet ﷺ's birth? What year did that happen? So in that case, we can also take benefit from other calendars as well. So one of the things that they would do, that when an event would happen, they would name the year by that event. So the year 570 was known as Amul Fil, the year of the elephant. So here, I think we will stop. Is there any questions? the question is in regards to Abraha. Was since he was a viceroy of Najashi, was he directed by Najashi to do this, or did he do this on his own accord? From the narrations, it seems that he did this on his own accord, because he had ownership of this southern area of the Arabian Peninsula, and so when he met with Abdul Muttalib, uh, he was coming to destroy the Kaaba, not to provide benefit to Najashi. And keep in mind, this is not the same Najashi that was done during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. The Najashi, as I stated, is a title, right? This is not Najashi who became a Sahabi, a Muslim, whom the Prophet ﷺ prayed his Salat al-Janazah. This is not the same Najashi from that time, from that era. So, just like Fir'aun was the name of the pharaoh, but there were Fara'in. There were many pharaohs. Though from the story of Musa alayhi salam, it's the same Fir'aun from his birth to when he became a prophet. But nevertheless, when Abdul Muttalib met with, because one of the things that Abraha did, he was started to seize things while on the path. So he had seized Abdul Muttalib's camels, 200 of his camels in one narration. So Abdul Muttalib came to him to seek his camel, to meet with him. Actually, Abraha sought his presence. So he asked for Abdul Muttalib, because he was the chieftain of Mecca. He asked for him to come. So when he came, Abraha was overcome with an awe that, and this was the man carrying the genes of the Prophet ﷺ. So he was overcome with this awe, and Abraha showed some humility at this point, and he stepped down from his throne, and they sat on the same level, and they started to converse. Abdul Muttalib said, "I came here for my camels," and Abraha said that I was thinking about respecting you, but I'm coming to destroy your Kaaba, and you're worried about your camels. And Abdul Muttalib stated, "Ana Rabbul Ibil lil Bayti Rabbun sayamna'uhu." I am the owner of these camels. The house, the sacred house, the Kaaba, has its own owner that will guard it, and it did. Right? This is exactly what had happened. So yeah, there are more details in regards to those incidents as well. Yes. The question is in regards to the Hatim, when was it excluded? So there are different occasions that one can read about. We know that there was a construction of the Kaaba during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and there were constructions after him as well during the Khilafat that came. So during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, it was clear that they did not have enough funds to build the entire sequence, so they had built this Hatim to demarcate the area of the Kaaba. During the time of Abdul Muttalib, it seems that the area was not completely built. Wallahu alam. There are works that are devoted to this. Maybe we can do a program on the history of the Hijr. There are works that are devoted towards the historical construct of the Kaaba and its fluctuation during the time periods, and the fada'il related to that. Alhamdulillah, Jazakumullah khairan for not going to your dawat and spending your time with myself and Imam Saab. Allah Ta'ala reward you and allow us to take benefit from the life of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Oh, I did, yeah. That's okay, next time.